Okay, so today I am discussing the explosion of the World Wide Web, and my sources are computerhistory.org, National Science Foundation, Vapor 95, YouTube, and pewresearch.org or pewresearch.org. I'm not sure. While its mainstream launch happened in the 90s, and that is going to be most of our conversation today, I cannot possibly start there. I'm sorry, I just can't. So I'm going to keep this as brief as possible, but the internet's history has to be explained from the beginning. I read through a whole timeline of 40 years worth of history. It's a lot of big words and names and acronyms, so I'm just going to tell you some of the bigger achievements. All right, so let's hit rewind again and go a little further back in time. So the internet has been in existence actually since the 1960s. It just looked very, very different. And this was in the days when computers were also just being developed in the early stages. For reference on how unrealistic it was to own a computer in your home back then, the first computer sold for $18,000. So that was in the early 60s, mind you. So today, that would be just under $180,000. So depending on where you live, that could be a small house for you. In the 70s, some notable things. Steve Wozniak, who was the underappreciated Steve of Apple, invented something called a blue box, which is basically a number pad. So those little pads on your computer, like if you have the extended keypad and you have like the number pad on the right side, he invented that.
Shout out. I use that every day. I'm an accountant.
Or like even I had something similar to the blue box as a kid in school when you like punch your code in for lunch. Did you have one of those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Steve Wozniak invented that, ladies and gentlemen. Also, a huge move is made in 1973 by the well-known tech company Xerox as Bob Metcalfe developed local area networks, LANs, which become known as the Ethernet. And the 70s is also when Apple comes about by Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. All right, in the 80s is when the internet started about and was at major institutions. This is also when computer games first came into debut, and it's still not mainstreamed in the everyday home. In 1984, Apple announces the Macintosh, which starts gaining a buyership. And also in terms of the internet, domains are developed. So that's when we get the .com, .org, and .gov. We have so many more now, but those are the first three. Okay, so now to the 90s. In 1990, the internet is now known as the net, and it's starting to make its way across the globe. At this point, it has over 300,000 hosts in countries including Argentina, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Chile, Greece, India, Ireland, South Korea, Spain, and Switzerland. And nowadays, we have a website for any thought you might have, but it wasn't always this way. Instead of search engines, we had search tools like Archie, Gopher, and WAIS or WISE. Institutions like the National Library of Medicine, Dow Jones, and Dialogue are also accessible online. Then the World Wide Web was born. This new digital world makes it easier to access information, text, images, and media files. On August 6th of 1991, the first web page was born. So the www is older than both of us. That is wild.
My gosh. But in the same year at least. So, I mean, shout out to both
Yes,
of us, right?
just a few months older. The web grew, and soon millions were buying computers and the internet to come online. Back in those days, accessing the internet was a task, event, whatever you want to call it. It was as though you were actually going somewhere. And now we pretty much are always online. Like, it basically runs through our bodies and we can't function without it now. The time was known as the information age. The internet started expanding out of the academia world and started going mainstream. And this really changed the world and honestly how industries worked as well. Companies had easier access to reaching audiences as the internet allowed them to share more information about their companies and their products online. It also allowed people to shop online, talk to friends, and do research on limitless topics without having to leave their home ever. So I found a hilarious ancient educational video on the internet. We'll link it. It's called The Kid's Guide to the Internet. It's one of those. Do you remember this?
I don't think so. This is funny.
Oh, your face looked like you remembered it.
No, it made me think about something else. I'm gonna see if you bring it up, but if you don't, then I'll tuck it
Okay.
in.
So this is one of those training videos, and they tried to make it cool, but it's really cheesy. So yeah, we're definitely going to put this in our show notes. Take a look at it. There was a jingle and everything, and it had it set as if it was a family sitcom. Honestly, some of it made me feel like I'd actually seen this video before. The video introduced the terms like surfing the World Wide Web, email, which means being able to talk with people from all over the world, and news groups. And they even instruct typing in http://www dot to access a web page.
Oh my God. Do you remember when you had to do that and you couldn't not
Mm-hmm.
put the HTTP?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Oh, this also introduced internet service providers. And the first internet service provider, aka ISP, was called The World. But do you remember the OGs from what we remember?
Oh
American
yeah.
Online or AOL?
Oh yeah.
We also had Netscape, Earthlink,
I don't remember
or
Earthlink, but Netscape.
yeah, or even Kmart had their own blue light.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, throwback.
So once you have an ISP, you use the quote browser to quote surf the web, and you'd have to go get a CD-ROM for whichever service you were going to use. Then you get an account and you pay, and then you get an actual Ethernet connection to the phone line. It was a lot to get online back then.
Yeah.
In this video, the kids go on the White House's brand new website and they write a letter to President Bill Clinton.
Oh my God.
They also explain how to gain internet connection through dial-up, throwback. Search engines were a huge benefit to having internet access. So Yahoo was the first major search engine. You go to the website, you type in a phrase or a keyword, and the search engine would generate endless results of what you were looking for. And Yahooligans was the kids' version of Yahoo, and it allowed kids a safer, kid-friendly version of a search, and even had games on their website. Did you ever use Yahooligans?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a Yahoo email, so I was attached to everything
Yeah,
Yahoo.
same. Yep. Eventually, Google, who is the top dog today, came out with theirs, and we also had Ask Jeeves, if you remember that one.
Oh God, yeah.
So the kids' video was also just handing out free advertising left and right. It showed websites like nickatnight.com and MTV.com, showing their websites for just about everything. In the 90s, this was mind-blowing. Whereas if a company didn't have a website now, we would second guess giving them our time or money. With the internet, people were also able to commit the act of downloading. This is, in case you didn't know, where you take a file, whether it's text, image, or media, and you copy the file to your computer. Or now we do it on our phones and every device we have. Now we download like a billion times a day, both at work and home, but this was state of the art back then. Accessing news was a huge favorite for the folks using the internet. People could read up on current events, weather, and even the score on the big game. Kids loved playing games, going in the chat rooms, and emailing. The way to communicate got much easier with the internet as well. Before the information age, you could reach people by mail, phone, telegram, or the old-fashioned go to their house and knock on the door. Now there was the concept of emailing people. Back then, the E in email was capitalized, and there was a hyphen between the E and the word mail. This has now been updated to all one word, and the only time you would capitalize it is for grammar at the beginning of a sentence. So emailing someone meant you logged onto the internet, went to your email hosting site, which would have been Yahoo, Hotmail, AOL, one of those, and you would send this person a virtual message. You need their email address, a message, and a subject. Once you press send, this message would go through the web and reach their email box where they would read it. This really changed society and allowed people to connect all over the world. And nowadays we take it for granted, but back then this was mind-blowing.
Oh, I take it for granted because all it's making me think about is my work email inbox.
Exactly. Like, we hate it now. We hate it. But back then, this was amazing.
Yeah.
Chat rooms were also a new form of communication. You were able to create a screen name and enter a chat room where you'd be exposed to dozens of people from who knows where, and you would just chat. And you can make friends, you could troll people, you can meet your existing friends there and talk digitally. Now, this also caused worry for parents, as not everyone is honest about who they are in these chat rooms, and it can cause danger. Internet safety was definitely something instilled to us in the 90s. I don't think that's the case now. Another danger of the internet is the fact that anyone could post anything on the internet as it is not monitored. And that being said, there were inappropriate websites, resources with false information, and those pesky chat rooms. Many parents worried about their children going online, considering the dangers it presented, and some even required to supervise their kids, while others checked the browsing history or put parental blocks on websites not rated for kids. However, it was not all bad. Anyone could make a web page, which meant more opportunity for anyone to be able to achieve things. In order to make a web page, you would need to learn HTML coding, code the site the way you want it, and make sure the domain was registered with Network Services, who manages domains. As we've already mentioned, Yahoo was one of the most commonly utilized websites in the 90s, and it served as a search engine, email host, and news site. It was created by Stanford University grad students Jerry Yang and David Filo. Its original name was Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web. Very Bill and Ted's, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
Yahooligans was then made as a kid's version to the site, and it included games you could play. And I remember back in elementary school, they would have game websites blocked. So you could go onto Yahooligans, and that was your way around playing games. So it was like cheating the system. All right, so the internet is established. Let's go through a timeline here for some important elements. In 1995, a little company called Amazon opens online, and it is known as Earth's biggest bookstore. It's now known to be basically fitting your every need, but back then they only sold books. Additionally, Craigslist and Match.com are added to the roster of websites available for browsing. This is also the year Microsoft launched Internet Explorer. Rest in peace.
I forgot that died. What, last year?
I think so.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
it
it
was
was
last
last
year.
year. Either last year or earlier this year.
Yeah.
Which, while you're listening, was last year because we're recording this in
Oh,
2023.
yeah.
We're time traveling all sorts of ways here.
We can do that now.
In 1996, this was an interesting year as The Dancing Baby, which was the first online video, was released. I feel like we've all seen a version of this video. Look it up later, Amber, because you're going to be like, oh yeah. Because I had no idea, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, I think I remember this. So everyone go look up The Dancing Baby of the 90s. This is also the year Hotmail launches, and Nokia also releases the first phone with internet capabilities. And I didn't think that happened till like 2003.
Me either.
But it happened in 96.
Go off.
All right, so 1997, a little guy named Google.com registers as a domain. At this time, its simplicity doesn't really sell when you have its direct competitor Yahoo having so much more to offer. But I remember liking the colors like of the logo, and I thought it was a fun word as a kid, so I like to use Google a lot.
Yeah.
We also had GoDaddy enter the game, but they were known as Jomax Technologies back then.
Oh.
Yeah.
GoDaddy confused me because the way that they like marketed it, it was confusing. I didn't know they were a search engine. They kind of provocatively advertised, if I remember correctly.
I don't think they are. I think they just joined the internet at this time, but they're a domain hosting site, at least now.
Oh, maybe that's what
So
it was
if
then.
you want a website, you can just register through them.
Oh, no, that's what they did do. I'm sorry. They weren't a search engine. That's what they were. They were a domain service site. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. 1998, not much is going on. AOL releases 4.0, and Oxford Dictionary adds the word spam in reference to junk mail with the intent to harm. That is my definition, not theirs, so don't quote me on it. But in email terms, that word spam is added to the dictionary. So the internet is making an imprint on society. In 1999, we have Yahoo acquired GeoCities for $3.6 billion. So not only can they give us news, stock market updates, sports scores, and our mailbox, now they can tell us directions to Sheila from work's house so we can get to her Christmas party.
I'm sorry.
Also the...
I just have to stop because you said Sheila from work. That's one of my coworkers' names. So you like, I'm like, what?
What are the chances? Like, I just picked a random name.
It's my coworker's name.
Shout out Sheila.
What up,
that
girl?
That is hilarious. So this
that's funny.
This is also the year Napster launches, wreaking havoc everywhere. So if you are not familiar, Napster is a music software that allows free downloads of pretty much any music you wanted. This made ways for LimeWire and now our legal and preferred method to listen to music, streaming. In fact, most colleges actually ban Napster from their browsers. So that's all I've got. That's the history of the internet. Did I mention what you were thinking about, or do you have another unlocked memory for us?
So this isn't technically internet related, but it's like computer related. And when you when you unlocked the CD for Kids for Internet, it reminded me of I think it was Windows 95 or 98, where Matthew Perry and Jennifer Aniston did the instruction video for one of them.
I never saw that.
I never saw it, but I saw like an advertisement.
Oh my.
Did I just make a new word?
Advo. That's our new word. Advo.
But But yeah, so I saw that and I thought, how freaking funny is that? That's so classic 90s. So that's what it made me think of.
I need to look that up. If we can find this Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry CD-ROM or the video for it, it'll be in our show notes, guys.
100%. That was
All
so
right.
good.
Thank you.